All right.
Don't buy them off North Dakota.
We're done with that.
I hope so. I think that's discrimination on some.
Still waiting for a couple of people, or do we have everyone here? We have,
Two is not.
waiting for, let's see. Waiting for Commissioner Logan,
Commissioner Logan is excused.
excused,
I
okay,
think just the interim city
okay, all right,
City Manager Burton, maybe?
yep.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right.
Here he is.
Mayor,
That's okay, Mr. Burton, we were waiting for the mayor.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Yeah.
Dig, dig, yeah. Thank you. Okay, I think we have everybody here now. We're good, okay. A little bit different this time, a lot of techie stuff in the room, so everyone can hear. Okay, it is 3:59 PM. We'll call this a joint work session of the City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County, Montana to order. It is August 2nd, 2022. My name is Commissioner Jim McCormick, County Commissioner Jim McCormick. I will be chairing the meeting today. We should go around the room with introductions, although it's not on the agenda here. I would like to do that. I've introduced myself. We'll start here on my left. Mayor, would you please?
City
Introduce
Mayor
yourself.
Wilmot Collins.
County Commissioner Tom Rawl.
Andy Hunthausen, County Commission.
Sheila Danielson, City Finance.
Roger Baltz, County Administrative Officer.
Brett Petty, Chief of Police, Helena Police Department.
Chris Cooey, Deputy Director of Transportation Systems for the city.
James Thomas, IT Director, City and County.
I'm Brandy Spangler. I am the Administrative Assistant to the County Commissioners and Human Resources. Nadine McCarty, County Commission Administration.
Bridget Johnston, City Facilities.
Troy Sampson, City Facilities.
Chris Brink, City Community Development.
Kelly Ray, City Planner. Sharon Haukenauer, Redeemer's Church.
Nancy Everson, County Finance.
Tim Burton, Interim City Manager.
Jacob Koontz, Helena Area Habitat for Humanity.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Anderson. I'm the new DES coordinator for Lewis and Clark County.
Melinda Reed, City Commission.
I'm Emily Dean, City Commissioner.
Thank you very much. And before we move into the agenda, Mr. Baltz, we do have a new DES coordinator. Just introduce yourself. Would you please go ahead?
I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
So Sierra Anderson, who just preempted all of this with her great introduction. So Sierra is in her second day on the job. So we're very pleased and excited to have her here. And we always appreciate it when after the first day on the job, somebody comes back for the second day on the job. So our DES coordinator position is the DES coordinator, not only for the county, but also for the city of Helena and the city of East Helena. So Sierra is just meeting everyone. And Sierra, I don't know if you'd like to say anything or not.
Yeah, if anybody needs anything, I'm just downstairs in the GIS office, but I'm coming to you from Oregon. No surprise there, I'm sure you've heard. I was a Beaver, OSU Beaver. I worked in emergency management for a local county, Benton County in Oregon for 3 years. I worked for a healthcare system for 2 years before that, in emergency preparedness. I love all things emergency preparedness, love doing community outreach. So I'm your gal when it comes to that. If you have any questions about emergency preparedness or my background, I'm happy to stay late and talk to you all.
We had a chance to take Sierra. She's had a chance to meet with the sheriff's office command staff. I don't think she's been able to meet with you yet, Chief. But we were over at the EOC earlier today too, getting familiar with dispatch and a number of those things too. So she has definitely hit the ground running. And Mr. Chair, I thought I would mention too, I was feeling kind of bad because no one would sit beside me, but then Mr. Burton came in and I noticed no one would sit.
Maybe there's something with you guys.
Sorry, we'll, thank you very much, and thank you, Sarah, and welcome, yes. Pardon me?
Sorry for the disturbance, but I'm reading something there from Danae saying Herb from our Redeemer was almost impossible to hear, so.
Okay. All right. Okay, so for those folks who are here sitting on the edges, when we ask for public comment or to participate, if you could step up to one of these blank spots with mics, that would work well. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for reminding me. We do have people joining us online, and let's see if Ms. McCarty, if you could please read the names of those who are joining us online for the record, please.
Sure, we have Amanda Opitz from the city of Helena, Betsy Kirkby, County Chief Information Officer, Cody Sallow, I apologize if I mispronounce your names, Danae Claiborne with the city, Dr. G, Gretchen Crum, Sabina Harold, Trust Montana, someone by the name of Hoover, Jake Garson with the city of Helena, Jeff Downhour, Jen Gursky with YWCA, Kara Snyder, Mike, and Ryan Wayman with the city. Zach, and then there's a phone number listed.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that said, we'll step in to the agenda here and the June 7th, 2022 meeting minutes. If you've had time to review those minutes at any point here, I will accept a motion to approve, or if there are amendments, changes to those minutes, please speak up.
Mr. Chair, I would move the minutes from June 7th, 2022.
We have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments on the June 7th, 2022 minutes, please? Anything at all? Thank you, commissioners. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please? Okay, the minutes are approved as written. Next up on our agenda is our Redeemers Lutheran Church project. And who's presenting for that project today, please? Who would be presenting that, please?
This is Gretchen Crum. Can you see my screen?
We see your screen.
Okay. Let me see if you still see it full screen without my notes.
Yes.
All right. Shall I proceed?
Please do.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners. Thanks for this opportunity. I think you'll find this presentation, this project an exciting one. So thanks for the opportunity to give you a status on it. Again, my name is Gretchen Crum. I'm with
Ms. Crum, your
collaboratively led this project planning effort, PG planning. I'm sorry.
Ms. Crum, please, you're fading in and out. We're having a difficult time understanding you there.
Okay, I'll try to be closer to my speaker. Is this better?
Let's try that.
Okay. So this was funded by a CDBG planning grant. And we think it has a great potential to be a very innovative model for creating partnerships and addressing some of our community's needs for affordable housing. The project was initiated by Our Redeemers Lutheran Church when they began conversations with community housing providers. They were seeking a partnership that would put their land into community service for affordable housing. The final composition of partners who funded and participated in the CDBG grant-funded planning process included our Redeemers, the City of Helena as grant sponsor, Trust Montana, a community land trust, Rocky Mountain Development Council, Helena Area Habitat for Humanity, and the YWCA. Each of the three housing partners targets a different sector of the affordable housing gap we're currently experiencing in our community, from supportive transitional housing by the Y, to affordable rentals by RMDC, to affordable home ownership by Habitat. Trust Montana, a community land trust, would assure the long-term affordability of the Habitat homes built on the site by maintaining stewardship of those properties, managing the resale to income qualified buyers, and capping the price escalation of those units. With this model, investments in affordable housing now reap continuing and growing rewards in the future for subsequent homeowners. You can see by the highlighted text I've added to the slide the scale of the need being experienced by these partners right now. Every time I give this presentation, I had to increase the numbers each partner has on their wait list. So our Redeemers first identified site development priorities for the portion of the land they wish to retain. And those include an outdoor amphitheater space located here off the southeast corner of their building that would be used for youth activities and outdoor worship, a columbarium and memorial garden, which would be tucked down here in the southeast corner as well. And then also hopes for expansion of their preschool, which currently resides in the building, but is that expansion portion is shown by the purple blocks here. And then hopes of finding a partner to manage a daycare facility shown in the yellow here, as they see childcare as another urgent need in our community. So the church has decided to retain just over 7 acres to support these mission priorities, in addition to their worship facility and the current community garden space that is in the northwest corner. And that leaves about 11 acres for development for housing, as well as some parkland dedication in the southeast corner. When we did a brainstorming exercise with the partners about key characteristics of a great neighborhood, these are the kinds of ideas that came forth and are the characteristics that we're aspiring to achieve in the development. Things like, walkable spaces, open space, orderly and clean organization to things, and really supporting living. So all the partners involved in this effort are seeking to provide more than just housing, but housing that also creates a neighborhood and encourages positive interaction and engagement. The final master plan is configured to align with what we heard from our neighbors in terms of wanting to maintain open space and walkability. Also, the overall density of the site has been reduced somewhat from what was initially proposed based on feedback received at a public meeting. At that public meeting, we were proposing 131 units and some buildings of 3 stories. While we heard negative feedback from some in the neighborhood about any kind of affordable housing, the feedback we found valid was from neighbors who wanted to support the concept, but who found some of the proposed density hard to accept. So ultimately, the recommended master plan includes 113 homes with a maximum of 2 stories. Horseshoe Bend Road, which runs along the south border of the site connecting Green Meadow Drive to Benton Avenue, is the first required infrastructure element necessary to spur this development and would provide additional connectivity for the neighborhood at large. Its intersection with Green Meadow Drive must be negotiated with the Department of Transportation, as Green Meadow Drive is a DOT route. The proposed park dedication in the southeast corner of the property is connected to a green parkway that runs through the whole center of the site, following a high pressure gas line easement. This green parkway also provides a pretty neat opportunity to link each partner in the neighborhood and provide public amenities like a playground, picnic areas, and a community center that's been identified here at Building 10. In addition, sidewalks and walking paths are shown along each street and running along the north and west boundaries of the site. As much as possible, parking areas have been tucked behind buildings so that street and sidewalk frontages are unimpeded by parking lots. The blue roofs represent proposed Habitat for Humanity homes. Each Habitat building is proposed to be townhouse style with 2 to 4 units per building. Each of the Habitat homes also has a single garage. The north boundary of the property, these 3 buildings here, are proposed to be Habitat duplexes and a triplex that are single level to match the height of the adjacent single family homes. And home sizes here would vary to accommodate a variety of income levels in a total of 33 Habitat homes. The yellow roofs here in the center and along the west border represent RMDC apartment buildings. These buildings are 2-story, providing a total of 60 rental homes. And the orange roof buildings house 20 efficiency units for the YWCA, along with a supportive services building for counseling, offices, and group meetings. The building here on the southwest corner of the site at the corner of Green Meadow and the new Horseshoe Bend Road, with the number 1 on it, is proposed to be a small market. So we've started some discussions with nonprofits involved in food security issues in our community, and are considering ideas of a blended for-profit and not-for-profit market to provide basic food staples for the neighborhood. So a total of 113 homes are proposed for the site, again, touching multiple sectors of our community's affordable housing needs, from transitional housing to affordable rentals to affordable home ownership. So this is a bird's eye view from the north looking south towards Mount Helena. Kind of shows the proposed density and scale of the development, along with proposed roadway alignments and streetscapes. All of the interior streets are proposed to be public streets following the city street standards, including sidewalks and boulevard trees. And this view from the southeast corner really highlights that proposed city parks dedication area that does sit within the stream setback, so it's undevelopable. And it also shows that connection to the Green Parkway running through the center of the site with walking paths. This elevation view is along Horseshoe Bend and just gives a sense of the proposed character of the townhome style constructions proposed for that street. So the full cost estimate was provided in your information packets. And it's just a tough reality that affordable housing can't be developed on the site without public subsidy. For comparison, the financial impact of development costs on the proposed homes without subsidy is estimated to be about $40,000 per housing unit. With the requested $2.4 million in public subsidy, that impact is reduced to less than $20,000 per housing unit. So this sort of public investment would, without a doubt, kickstart this project and make it viable. The housing partners will still need to seek public grants, tax credit financing, and private donations to fund their building constructions, as the total cost of the project is estimated to be around $40 million. But local public investment in site acquisition and infrastructure development is the necessary catalyst at this point. So take note here of the impact that the community land trust model has on a subsidy for Habitat homeowners. With just a $20,000 per unit investment, comparing a modest 4.9% market value increase. That's the orange line here. And that's roughly what our community saw from 2012 to 2020 versus the 1.5% equity restriction on the CLT homes. That's the community land trust restriction. That's the blue line here on the graph. The projected growth of that subsidy impact is really rather stunning. So with the average, this chart shows an average sale every 7 years. And you can see what the difference in value between market rate and CLT does and how impactful that initial investment is for subsequent homeowners and future generations. I'm sure everybody's aware of what's happened to our median home prices in the last few years. They're highlighted here, but again, that average escalation from 12 to 20 was 4.94%. And if you just add the last 2 years to that, it bumps up to over 10% increase average per year. So this project and its partners they're excited and they are poised to make this happen. The PAR has been completed, submitted to the city and made publicly available. A recent exciting development is that RMDC board voted that contingent on the receipt of the requested public subsidy and suitable partner agreements, that they would be willing to act as the lead developer of the project. They would then lead the project through the subdivision and rezoning process and contract for design services for Horseshoe Bend Road and the other site infrastructure needs. It's projected that that work would take most of next year to complete, allowing for the installation of Horseshoe Bend Road and interior roadways to begin in 2024, and partner projects to begin subsequent to the subdivision infrastructure approval, hopefully in 2025. So I think these partners have a really unique vision for the project. They want to see an innovative and collaborative partnership of government entities and nonprofits, that would come together and address the affordable housing crisis in our community. We want to create a neighborhood that supports individual dignity and development by promoting relationship building and mutual respect and understanding. These partners all have invested a lot of effort in this project, and they all look forward to the possibility it holds for fostering new partnerships and a positive community impact. So I thank you for the time you've allowed me to explain where the project's at. We feel like it's just on a precipice of wanting to happen. Again, we are looking to formally request public subsidy. And I think many of the partners are available either in the room or online today if you have questions for any of them or for myself.
Thank you very much. A lot of good information there, good presentation. I'll open it for questions. Anyone? Questions? We have, go ahead, Commissioner.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Just briefly, and I don't know if the city manager knows the answer to this. Given the money available in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, is there a way for us to maybe, if we're going to consider a contribution, is there a way to kind of maximize our efforts by using those type of funds for the actual infrastructure?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I think there's still a gray area as to the ARPA funding and whether or not we can use it to expand the city limits or not. And I know that was originally attached to SRF and those requirements. We continue to try to coordinate that discussion through Senator Tester's office.
I can clarify that the property is already in city limits.
All of it?
Yeah.
Then I don't think that's an obstacle. I thought a part of it was still outside the city. So that's good news. The potential then is, I think we'd have to look into it further, but I would like to assume up front that it would be worth that effort because I think it might be eligible.
Well, and that's what I'm just wondering, if you pair ARPA with infrastructure dollars outside of ARPA, like the actual infrastructure bill dollars, is there a way that way we can, maximize what's available?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, the one reason why I'm not being completely definitive is I think we're still, even though we've got Treasury guidance, we're still working out the details through the various state agencies that the funds will be working their way through. And in this case, it could be MDT, DNRC, DEQ. But we'll certainly be a part of that discussion as it all develops.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I have a question too. This is for anyone who can answer this. I was just reviewing, just perusing a document that intimates that there may be, housing and urban development funds available in grants for projects maybe similar to this. Has anyone investigated that? Go ahead, Mr. Burton.
Mr. Chairman, we have, and I think Amanda's online, but we have met with HUD on that very issue in the last 3 weeks, I think. And they do want to partner with our area on a project. And so we have engaged them, and they want to remain engaged as we look for affordable housing opportunities in this area.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Please, Commissioner.
just more of a comment than a question. Through the county's budget process, we have committed, obligated, I guess is the word, right? Obligated, okay, these words that the Treasury used, so. A significant amount of our ARPA allocations, of our 13 million, like almost 11 million of that has been obligated to some degree. And I think we've proposed to do some really good things with Habitat, with Food Share, done some things with Florence Crittenden. We're talking about multiple ways. Well, we've obligated in multiple ways that will be contribute greatly toward the needs in our community, if you will. That said, and I don't know if we'll have the opportunity to or not, or the availability of funds, but I, for one, would like to study a way that the county could potentially participate in this project in some financial way, whether that's, hey, we can do a block of pipe, or we can make another contribution to one of the organizations that are trying to pull this off. So obviously I'm not committing anything or can't speak for the other commissioners, but I, for one, would like to study how the county could participate in a positive way here and help this project get over the finish line. So I'll just leave it at that, and we can look at ways, Baltz and Ann's in the room here, our grants director, and of course our commissioner. So just wanted to get that on the record, see if we can be of assistance in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Hudhausen, and thank you. Yes, we have Ann McCauley, Lewis and Clark County. Hope I get the title right. It's our grants and projects funding coordinator, director for Lewis and Clark County. And question for Ms. McCauley. Ms. McCauley, just bouncing off of Commissioner Hudhausen's comment regarding potential grants or whatever, would Lewis and Clark County, could Lewis and Clark County say be a grant sponsor for a pass-through, should say a HUD project funding come forward, something like that? And if you could come close to a mic, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I think for any HUD funding or other projects that require a local government sponsor, the county could be that applicant and pass through to any one of the partners as a subrecipient that we do for many other kind of HUD funding programs.
Okay, so there's one potential there, and HUD, as Mr. Burton said, been in contact with HUD. And other infrastructure project funding, Commissioner Dean referenced, I believe, yeah. So there are different opportunities potentially that where we could take advantage of something. Mr. Burton.
Mr. Chairman, I think for particularly the county commissioners, the city commission is now undertaking its review of all city CCIPs, looking at what was funded and not funded in the budget, and also putting together parameters on the allocation, the process, the structure of the allocation of the city ARPA funds. And that's in development right now. Don't know exactly when we'll get to the actual, we're looking at requesting applications that fit a certain format, ready to go, etc., that the funds can be committed and spent within the time frame of the program. But sometime within the next 2 months, I think the city commission is going to be on pretty firm ground on how they want to structure that engagement. So that's in the works as we speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burton. So coordinating the communications and anything where Lewis and Clark County may have an opportunity here. The horse has already left the barn here, so to speak. So we can work with the city of Helena.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Baltz, any comments regarding coordination of work communication with the city on work moving forward, staying in contact with Mr. Burton on the progress?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Good discussion. Mr. Burton and I have regular meetings, and I had a chance a few days ago to forward him the master list of ARPA approvals that the county has done. So yes, we will certainly do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Hunthausen, does that comport with your vision here?
It does, Mr. Chair. Just some way we can help. This is too important to not help move forward. So if there's something we can do to assist, whether it's matching grant, going after grant,
Okay,
investing,
sure.
real dollars, whatever it might be, I'd like to investigate a way that we can participate.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else from other commissioners? Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Rolfe, Commissioner Rolfe, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just wondering if somebody in putting this together has got developed a cash flow on this project as it goes forward, what kind of expenses we'd be looking at? Would we be looking at having to do some bonding to keep it to keep the project moving over the next few years?
Anyone? And we have folks here from our Redeemers. Please, from the public, if you care to step up, that would be fine. Ms. Haugen?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I would think with regard to cash flow, and the cash flowing will be really incumbent upon the three organizations to do their cash flowing as they each develop each of those individual projects. The cash flow for the YWCA will look a whole lot different than, let's say, what Habitat will do for cash flow. Their cash flow is a whole different. Rocky Mountain will work with tax credits more than likely, and there's a whole separate process. We're working with tax credits. If your broader question means is someone as the project manager or lead looking at the overall cost of the development of the individual infrastructure in the subdivision, Rocky has agreed to take that lead on looking at the cash flows, and we're very fortunate that they have. They're a great partner. They've done, I don't know, I'm gonna say 400 at least plus units, new units in the city of Helena, have developed raw land, many circumstances. So we're thrilled to have them as a partner. In addition, all the other partners have indicated that we're going to establish working relationships, working agreements that kind of outline who's going to pay for what. So I hope I answered your question, Commissioner.
I think if I might, I guess I'd just like to see how that all comes together. I know the county makes some contribution to Rocky and there's contributions to and we make some contribution to Habitat for regular operating, and would this entail them needing to get some extra contribution to keep it going? So I'd kind of like to see how the thing pans out long term, you know, and then if I guess I'm concerned about setting up a beautiful project like this and not having it, and then having it in 5 years say, okay, now we need several $100,000 a year to keep it going.
Commissioner, I would like to comment that you have some very good partners in this organization. We could certainly have that discussion amongst partners to kind of show you what that looked like. I can tell you any funding agency, HUD, Commerce, tax credits, whoever, or individual foundations are going to ask to see that information. And I'm sure we'd be happy to share that information with you as we move forward.
Yeah.
So,
I think that'd be really important to
Yeah.
know where we're at that way.
Please introduce yourself, Mr. Coons.
Yes. Chairman, Commissioners, Jacob Coons, 941 Hollins, Director of Habitat. So to kind of jump in there a little bit. So when we look at a piece of land, the first part of that is to acquire the parcel and to examine then all the pieces and do a cost analysis of the project for the infrastructure. And then likely looking at that with RMDC taking the lead on the development there, they would examine the equity stake that the city county would have in the project and the different funding sources. And we likely would be leveraging that with private financing. There's low interest loans for doing development and the infrastructure work that would need to be happening. We put that whole package together like any developer would and go through the whole subdivision process, the rezoning process to move forward on that. But there'd be a funding stack related to that development process. Unlikely that Habitat would then acquire parcels or work with the trust on their portions until we figured out, okay, the whole thing's been developed. But we'd have plans in place to say when we get to that point, then Habitat would be acquiring that parcel at the rates determined. And so then that's how probably things would be split up. But I don't want to speak out of turn with some of that. But there would be definitely a funding stack and then a plan in place for the different, what private financing and then what the public financing and the public, in ARPA funding would be to make that work out. What we can't predict is cost increases. We're starting to see materials start to drop, but we're seeing labor increase. And so those are the things that are unknowns, but there's a large contingency in the plans and the numbers that Ms. Crum has presented to sort of accommodate and foresee kind of, we're 2 years out, we're probably going to see increases, decreases. It's going to be all over the place, large contingency to make it pencil out, make sure we don't get into a situation where we're over our heads.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
In a different direction, another question I've got would be looking on the page that talks about how they would control the price of resales of the Habitat homes.
Yes.
And comparing that to the market price.
Right.
Are there examples of places where that's actually happened and it's been successful? Where we can kind of
Chairman, Commissioner, I love answering that question. Yes, 1000 Shoto Street over here in Helena, we're doing the first land trust project. We took an existing home that was actually donated to Habitat, and we're putting another dwelling unit on the property, and the whole land will go into a land trust, and we'll sell the individual homes. The main house is being sold for $220,000. It appraises for more like 400 right now. So we're selling it to a family. We're working with realtors to sell that home for $220,000 for an eligible family. They will earn 1.5% of that sales price every year they live in the home. That's about $3,200. So 10 years down the line, if they decide they're going to sell that house, we do a calculation with Trust Montana, and that would be 10 years times $3,200, $32,000 in equity that they gain, plus what they pay off of their mortgage. And that's what we would resell the house automatically at $252,000. Of course, 10 years from now, it's probably worth more like $550 to $600. But the initial investment in those homes right now becomes a permanent investment over their times. Those homes will be serving families for generations, not just one family.
If I might have
Please
follow up.
Mhm.
So you've got one home doing that right now, is that right?
Two
homes?
Mhm.
Two homes. But we're talking about here quite a large number.
Yes.
Are there places where that sort of thing has happened? You've got projections out here for maybe 35 years or something, 30 years. And are there places where that's happened around the country where they've had larger numbers in communities our size?
Yes.
Where they've done that sort of thing and it's been successful?
You can't build a house in Montana for really under 400,000 with the market the way it is. So this is where we're finding trouble building houses. The market can't really serve families even up to 100% of the median income. So that's a family making about $75,000 a year in Lewis and Clark County. We've lost that entire market. So only people are making above the median income can afford homes anymore. So that leaves the majority of the population without that ability. So that's why we're investing in the land trust model. We're hoping to build hundreds and hundreds of homes that'll be permanently affordable, that'll be serving, so that we're not losing homes to the market. But yes, this has been replicated across the country. The land trust model is a long established model, and it's a way of ensuring that whatever investment is made in housing remains a permanent investment in the community and isn't a temporary investment. So that's what we're saying. We're not only going to be in the home building business, we're going to be in the home reselling business, because we're going to have a portion of homes that'll come up for resale every year. In fact, we're managing one right now that we built back in 2019. Families moving away, and we're going to resell the home to the next family, keep it moving.
And if I might follow.
Please do.
I guess my question really is, I'd like to see some examples where it's worked over the last 25 years in other communities, larger numbers like this. I think we're facing some really uncertain times with the government caused inflation that we have right now. And I'd like to see how it works over that long term in order to understand that it's going to work for us. You know, doing it with one or two is a lot different than doing it for 20 or 30,
right,
or 100
right.
Units. And I just like to see that it has worked and can work for us.
Chairman, Commissioner, I'll be happy to look that up. That'll be an
If
easy
you can
thing
give
to
me that
find.
information,
Of
make
course,
me feel a lot better.
no problem. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Koontz. Good explanation. I learned a lot through that exchange. Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Dean.
Just one final question, and I know someone in the room will probably have this answer. I know that during the presentation, she mentioned that the wait list continued to grow. Can you maybe talk about some of the folks that make up those wait lists, not just folks, I don't think just living in the city, but within the entire community more broadly?
Chairman, Commissioner, I know that Jen Gursky is also on the call, so she can speak to her own wait list. We currently have over 270 families constituting about 750 who are on our wait list. We've stopped advertising and talking too much about it because we have such a large list to work through. About 60% of the population, Lewis and Clark County, qualifies for our programs, which are individuals, families that make up to 80% of the area median income. But during the pandemic, we also saw the loss of the sub $350,000 house, which was serving folks who make up to 120% of the area median income. And that's why our board is looking at potential models moving forward that we would potentially have a higher, we try to serve up to 120, because the goalposts are being moved and the people who need housing who can't find it are increasing, which means our work is more needed than ever before. And yeah, in the midst of that, it's just the challenge is trying to build and create. You can't build a house, a truly affordable home. And I'd say that, preface that as saying a home that serves a family that's less than 100% without coming to it with equity. You got to find that. We do it through volunteer labor and through grants and by through restored contributions. And now we're getting into land development business because that's the big chunk of money there. So here's Amina. She's saying something.
Maybe Ms. Gursky, could you discuss your wait list and who is coming to you for support?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Commissioner. Chair, Commissioner Dean, YWCA right now operates a state endorsed substance use recovery home in our 24-bed shelter. And what we are really challenged with now is two ends of the spectrum. So an entrance into our shelter services and a 2.1 recovery, which looks like it's kind of like a recovery halfway house. So it's not an inpatient, there aren't locked doors. You can go and take your kids to the lake in the weekend, but there's still about 20 hours of clinical care. So what we're seeing is programming going, or waitlist going into that programming. We continue to be 20 to 30 deep right now of women who are on our wait list. that seem to be unduplicated. When I speak with Carrie at Florence Crittenden and Gina at the Friendship Center, most of the majority, like over 80% of our names are unique names to the unique aspect of the services that we offer. And each of us have wait lists about that long, if not longer. So that's a wait list going into our programs. One of the issues, so speaking about the other end of the program then, is when we graduate women who are ready to successfully step into community independence, it's usually about 12 months of their time in the shelter, and we have no place to place them. So now we have people who are ready to move into the community, are ready to move out of the shelter in 12 months, but now they're staying 18 to 24 months because the last thing that we want to do is graduate somebody into an insecure housing situation and start that cycle again. So we are seeing the crunch, both because of our wait list coming into the intensive aspect of the program, but now because affordable housing is 18 to 24 months out, we start people on Section 8, all of the Helena Housing Authority and how they help us and help the clients and those like our clients in the community. But a single room doesn't come up very often, a single occupancy house or even a 2-bedroom house, easily a 24-month wait. So how that filters for us into this project is building 20 efficiency apartments creates a graduation step for us in the programming that we can then accept more intensive patients or intensive clients into shelter. That again, just to remind folks, we're working with co-occurring mental health, substance use disorders, extreme poverty, homelessness, typically justice system involvement, and if there are children, CPS involvement. And the population that we serve now is about 80% of the population we serve come with children. This project helps us solve the own squeeze that we're experiencing. Quite honestly, I could probably use 5 more projects like this for my program alone. But yeah, the wait list is very real. The Helena Housing Authority, I know that they have been highlighted in some of your meetings. Their wait list affects our wait list. So I'm hoping that answers your question, Commissioner.
It does, thank you. Just a brief comment. I'm very grateful to all the community partners who are really pushing to move this forward. I think that it's no surprise to anyone that housing is very difficult to find. I was just talking to the gal who is moving out of the duplex that's behind me. It's a 2-bedroom duplex. The landlords don't do a great job keeping it up. She's been living there with her 2 kids, and the rent used to be $1,300 for 2 bedrooms, and they have now raised it to $1,600, and she has to leave town because she cannot afford it. And you know that it's happening to everyone, even folks who have higher education degrees, good jobs at the state. I think Mr. Kuntz noted that it's not just those who are under 100% AMI, it's even above. So incumbent upon all of us to do something to help solve this crisis, because it will not just be an impact in the next decade, but kids who are growing up without secure housing obviously continue cycles that we'd like to be able to help solve.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I have a question too, and for anyone who can answer this. What I've learned recently is sometimes we conflate the 2 terms as affordable housing and workforce housing. Would this be by definition workforce housing is what we're talking about? These are people who are employed. For Mr. Kuntz, I think you said something about having the down payment or the equity piece to this. That's the first hurdle to get over. So this is a question, workforce housing?
Chairman, we say that homes are where jobs go to sleep. So when your neighbor had to leave because she couldn't afford to live in Helena anymore, we lost a job. Which means a business struggling to find a worker. So if people can't afford to live in a town, and there's 2 big issues here, one is childcare and one is housing, which this project addresses both. Can't afford to put your kids in childcare, $10,000 a kid. So then, why go to work? Because, doesn't make sense financially. You can't afford your home. So yes, it's workforce housing. It's where the jobs that we need in Helena keep these businesses going. That's where they live.
This is the core.
Yeah, affordable housing, workforce housing, they're interchangeable. We always trying to find a word because a stigma gets attached every few years and we start thinking about those poor people. But like I mentioned, it's the majority of our population and it's affecting all demographics now. And it's affecting the economy and businesses. And it requires something more because we welcome the for-profit building community to put Habitat out of business. There's nothing I'd like more than to close the doors and go do something else because the for-profit community figured this out. That's not going to happen anytime soon. And like I said, the goalposts moved in the last 2 years. So now we've got more customers, if you will.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Coons. Appreciate it. Thank you. Are there other questions? Are there other questions?
Chair, I don't know if anyone saw the comment from Hermina Harold. I can ask her to unmute.
Please, yes, please unmute or read it, please.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Oh, great. So I typed this in the chat because my voice wasn't coming through for some reason, but I was trying to answer the question that the gentleman had about, how these models work over time. So I wanted to let him know that community land trusts have been operating in Montana for over 20 years. And there are currently over 200 CLT homes in Montana. The oldest CLT home in Montana now sells for over $100,000 below market rate, and that's in Missoula. We are already partnered with Helena Habitat, a couple of other Habitat affiliates, and we have homes in Belgrade, Bozeman, Livingston, Missoula, and Red Lodge. And there are other community land trusts across the state. So I'd be happy to share other information as needed.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Rolfe, does that help?
Yeah, I think that would be good. I think it would really help me feel better about the whole concept if I saw that it was working.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, other questions? Are there any other questions? Any other comments? Excellent presentation. Thank you, our Redeemers. This, I don't believe is an action item. This is a project presentation. The City of Helena, Mr. Burton, and Lewis and Clark County, Mr. Baltz, moving forward, coordinating, communicating on anything moving forward. You got her? Okay. Anything, Mayor, you'd like to add? Okay. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you for being here. Okay, we will move on to our next agenda item today, and that's transit services. Please, who is presenting transit services? Thank you very much. Please.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I think we're here today to talk a little bit about the city's transit service and how some of those services could expand into the county with either some additional support or some additional planning. If you remember, back towards the beginning of this year, the city's transit service transitioned from a fixed route model to our flexible scheduling model. I gave you some numbers back at our joint budget session. And just to give you a few more updates for this prior month for July, our ridership was just under 4,000 riders. If you compare that to last July, was only just over 1,000. So we're almost 300% increase from year to year. And a lot of that is attributed to our new model. Obviously, some of that is coming out of COVID and people are back on the streets a little more, but I would attribute most of that increase to the flexible scheduling model. So if you remember a little more recently at that joint budget session, we also asked for an increased contribution from the county. I think it equated to just about $10,000 for the year. But the idea of that additional contribution was to provide us with some resources to be able to start researching how we could start to serve the community at large out into the county and try to expand a little bit beyond city limits. And so far, some of those efforts, we've been taking comments from the public, and we get a lot of phone calls in from people outside city limits asking if they could be picked up out there or dropped off out there. So currently we're not, the service has not expanded out beyond city limits at this point, with the exception obviously still of our East Valley route. But at this point, we're sort of starting to research maybe where some of those locations could be, what the best locations to serve the rest of the community would be. Obviously moving up into the North Valley some, moving a little bit further west. And so I think at this stage, it would be more of a joint effort to start looking at either something like a park and ride option, or to have something more similar to what our East Valley route is, which is what we refer to as a deviated fixed route. So there are a couple of designated spots in East Helena that we would go out, pick up, you come back to the transit station, and then you get your ride to wherever you're going in town from there. And when you're ready to go back home, you do the same thing. You come back to the transit station and get on your ride back to East Helena. So at this point, it would be a similar model to that. Going forward into the future, if that does become a thing, obviously it would be more of a contribution on the county side for not only funding for the identification of some of those spots, right? So I mean, some of the obvious places I think that stand out, there's a sort of an off the road parking area like at Sierra Road in Montana. There is Bob's Valley Market area out there in the North Valley. So obviously those are privately owned properties. So we'd have to figure out a partnership with them or some other spots in those areas to designate as maybe a park and ride or a pickup location out there. I don't know that we'd be able to offer the door-to-door service out into the county, at least not in the beginning. But it's definitely something that I think is on the horizon in the long-term future to provide that full service beyond just the city limits.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have a question. Several buses are now parked, but you have the paratrans going, and then your newer unit is running, is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we received 2 new vans just I think 2 weeks ago. So they're in the process of getting up and running. They're being decaled and wrapped and outfitted with all the equipment that they need. But yes, they'll be in our rotation as well. We are, I think with the exception of maybe one part-time driver, we're fully staffed now. And so we are, the system is very good. It's very adaptable, the software that we're using. It's the drivers are not being overwhelmed. Riders are not having to sit and wait for long periods of time to get their rides. And like I said, I mean, our ridership is increasing exponentially, and our staff is keeping up with it. They're doing a great job of making sure that everybody gets to go where they need to go.
So the COVID cliff that everybody went off of recovered, restructured, and ridership is well beyond the rebound to what pre-COVID levels?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious, I know the ridership, you gave a general statistic for the increase. Do you have any specific data related to the deviated fixed route? And are you seeing increases there? Or do you have any calculations about that piece of it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Reed, the East Valley route, I believe, contributed about 200 of those rides, right in that number for this past July. So out of I think the number was about 3,800. So out of the 3,800, about 200 of those were on the East Valley deviated route.
Answer your question. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? Any other questions? Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Next on the agenda is City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County Buildings Management Agreement. And I see, Troy, you had your signature all over this. Who would like to present? Mr. Sampson.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Troy Sampson, City Facilities Department. At our last meeting, we did discuss the putting together a building board, advisory board. Right now, the city and county own the city county building and the Law and Justice Center jointly. The city of Helena manages those through an interlocal agreement that we have in place currently. Staff is recommending to create an advisory building management board through a city county buildings management agreement, which you will see in your packet. We're hoping that this advisory board would meet on a regular basis and establish a line of communication to discuss building management needs throughout the year. And the purpose of the board would be to evaluate and make recommendations regarding the short and long-term maintenance needs of those properties. Review and make recommendations as needed to ensure efficient building maintenance operations occur to protect the historical and community value of the properties, and recommend funding as part of the city and county budget processes. The alternative would be to continue with our current management plan as outlined in our current interlocal agreement and not form a board. So next steps would be, if we get consensus from you today, would be to bring that agreement to each commission's for approval and move forward with put the building board together and start meeting. And I think that's the staff's recommendation to you all. I'm available for any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson, and thank you for the work you've done here. I know this has been a topic a project that's been ongoing here for the past several months. So yeah, we'll open it for questions. Anyone? Any questions? Any comments, please?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dean.
This MOU or management agreement, how does it compare to the original management agreement? And is there anything that we need to be considering learning from the past?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dean, the original agreement that the city and county had was through a corporation that was created back in 1977 when the federal government gave the building to the city and the county. So it was under a little bit of a different structure, but the board itself functioned as a policy board and ultimately had, because they were corporate, they had their own bank account. They had staff that worked for them that were city county employees versus what we're doing now where we have city employees. This agreement that we're proposing would, it just gives us an opportunity to sit around a table on a periodic basis and discuss the facilities and the operation and make sure we're staffing it appropriately and spending our funds, as necessary.
And I, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Ms. Burton.
I also think it gives us an opportunity to focus on the future and come back to the respective governing bodies with recommendations as well.
That take care of it?
It does, yep. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sampson and Mr. Burton. Mr. Sampson, this now is a little bit different. The original configuration dealt with this building, the city county building, joint ownership. Now we have an additional building. We have the Law and Justice Center. Would include that also, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. So this takes on a little bit more. And to your point, Mr. Burton, any other future expansion, growth, or acquisition would be included, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Sampson?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Again, this is not an action item, would be an action item for both the city and the county to consider in public meeting. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, up next is the CAD RMS discussion. Now, this is the Emergency Management Communication. Chief, are you on this one?
Yes.
All
Mr.
right.
Chair.
All right. Thank you very
Commissioners.
much.
I can be on this one. Mr. Thomas may have a few comments as well.
Okay, we'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, you
All
bet.
right. Thanks.
Just update, we are in the third quarter of the project timeline, which is the requirements are being developed. So PRI is the consulting firm. They have met with all the stakeholders involved. In doing that, they have got the specifications, all the feedback, and they're going to take all that back to their shop and give us a laundry list of what we're looking at and what everyone needs. Once they get that list comprised, they're going to come back and meet with us and say, now let's prioritize in order to get to the next step of developing an RFP, which would be quarter number 4 of 2022. The ultimate goal would be hit the putting out our RFP issued in quarter 4 and then a contract signed the beginning of next year, quarter 1. I'm hoping we stay on track. So far, so good. We'll see what they come back. It sounds like it's a pretty extensive list from what they brought back. So the executive board that we comprised of what the consulting firm put together will meet and talk about and prioritize that list. So that's where we're at. That's the update so far in that
project.
In that project, yes.
All right.
Finish my
Thank you.
sentence.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Yes.
We also have ITS Director James Thomas here. So I would think, Mr. Thomas, being that this is kind of in your wheelhouse, all this high-tech software equipment and all of that, if I remember correctly, for both of you, and Mr. Burton and Mr. Baltz, and Ms. McCauley, if I remember correctly, Lewis and Clark County has approved, I think, up to $750 county contribution for this RMS system. And a like amount has been requested from the city of Helena coming from ARPA funds. Am I right, Mr. Burton?
I think it's in $1,000. It's yeah, 750,000.
Right.
And
What did I say?
dollars.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The city
Yeah.
commission is aware that the county commission has allocated those funds. And they're also aware that this will come forward for their consideration when they're allocating the ARPA under the structure that they put together.
Okay, all right.
And
So-
Mr. Chair, if I
Please,
could,
Ms. yeah.
just another point of clarification. I know Nancy's with us and so is Ann. We did discuss it as a part of the ARPA discussion. It was approved, but the funding source for the county is not ARPA. It's actually the commission's capital reserve.
Oh, thank you very
Just
much for that
slightly different.
clarification. Yep, thank you very much for that. Okay, we'll get her all squared away. Now, that adds up not to $750, but $1,500,000. Thank you. And of course, in the narrative there, I think I read, concerns about funding adequacy. That's still an ongoing discussion, Chief.
Correct. They haven't come back with, because they need to get that list. They need to get the feedback, prioritize what we're looking for in order to go out and is this the system we need? Are these all the amenities that come with this system? Are they going to be able to produce what we're looking for? And so they need that in order to get that fixed price. And I said fixed, I shouldn't say fixed price, but get a price and estimate for us.
Yeah, and this isn't, gee, this would be nice to have. This system is
20
essentially
years
end of
old.
life.
Yes, it was end of life 10 years ago.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
all right, I get it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please, Commissioner Dean.
In those evaluations, Chief, do they evaluate the, I guess, the cost recovery by implementing something like this? Because I know in the last couple of years, we obviously have had a lot of instances where we're requesting data and a lot of other information that takes unbelievable amounts of staff time, which this will correct. Do we get that kind of analysis?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Dean, I'm hoping so.
Okay.
I know when that was first presented to us, there was some cost recovery language in there. To be specific, I don't have that, but they did talk about that.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Commissioner Dean. Thank you, Chief. Are there other questions? Comments regarding the CAT RMS system, which is Emergency Communication System? And thank you for that correction, Mr. Baltz and Ms. Everson. Any other questions? Any other questions? Any questions online, Ms. McCarty?
Mr. Chair, no.
No, none at all. All right, thank you. Okay. We have come to the point in this public meeting where we will accept public comment. Is there any public comment either on our discussions today or further comment on anything anyone wants to bring forward? Anything at all? Anyone at all? Okay, what we have here is we'll accept agenda items for the next meeting, which is now scheduled for September 6th, 2022. Please contact Danae Claiborne, extension 8409 to add your suggestions for that meeting agenda. So seeing no one come forward with public comment, no further comments related to our topics today, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.